we're actually going to talk about how to create your own town. This is something that my viewers expressed a lot of interest in when I mentioned it on Instagram. Wait, how can you create your own town? Turns out you can actually get a few people together, create an independent town or city, and take some of the power back into your own hands for all these people who are fed up with government overreach. Create your own little government. It's actually pretty doable. All right, let us know if you guys can hear us. We're going to talk about a few other topics today here in Wisconsin. So, with that being said, cheers. What is this, Mom? You just made it.
This is my daily juice. I do celery juice usually first, and then as long as I have the juicer out, I decide to make a juice I actually enjoy.
Fresh squeezed, huh?
So it's organic carrots and beets and cucumber and ginger.
They're coming up with town names.
Oh,
Ivory Town, Heckerville.
Heckerville. Heckertown.
Um, so you're a good one to talk about, how to survive in your own town because you were such a survivalist for a lot of your life. I had a really unique upbringing with my parents in the wilderness, homeschooled. My mom lovingly called it Rolling Hills Academy because we were just living in this remote ranch with rolling hills. But I'm going to take you guys through some of the legalities of creating your own town, and then Mom is going to talk about survival skills. Now that you can't depend on the government because you just made yourself your own government.
Yeah, he should have never in the first place, but depended on them.
All right. So, first of all, you need to, if you want to create your own town, you have to find an unincorporated area, plot of land, unincorporated land.
Did you know? That's what our town is, unincorporated.
Yeah, Mom, actually, you could actually create your own town here, like where we are right now in remote Wisconsin. But much of America is already incorporated into its own cities and towns. So you have to find a section of a county that has not been incorporated into a town or a city. It's much easier that way rather than trying to secede. So, and yeah, I think people who want to create their own towns are trying to get away anyway. They're trying to get away from government control. So you want to find a more remote, unincorporated plot of land. So you find that. Then you need to order a land survey so that you know exactly what is in this land that you're trying to turn into your own town. So, you figure out exactly the buildings, the houses, the people, and the borders of this new city that you're forming. So you get that on paper. You probably want to hire a lawyer for all this too, but you want the survey on paper showing this is exactly the borders of our town. Next, you have to figure out your state's rules for minimum requirement for how many people. You usually have to have a certain number of people to form a town. For instance, Arizona, you need 1,500 people. Maryland, you need 300. Idaho, you need 125. Texas, you actually just need 10% of your voters in the town to check off yes that they want to be their own town. So however many people are registered to vote in that area, if 10% agree that they want to be a town, you can do that. In Arkansas, it's 75 signatures. I'm not sure what it is here in Wisconsin, but you want to get a petition going to form a town. You have to get a petition, have the people sign off, however many your state requires. Minnesota requires 100 signatures. Apparently, Florida just requires 1.
Wow.
You can create a town as a solo person, from what I'm reading.
Seems to me where we lived in northern Minnesota before we moved here, there was a little town next to the one we lived in called Ilgen City. It seems to me the motto underneath their sign was population 2 and room for you. So two people there in that town.
Someone there must have figured out these rules. See, a lot of people don't even realize this is something you can do. So, and we'll talk about why people do this. There are benefits to creating your own town, especially if you like independence. If you like to rely on someone else, then there's, you know, things that set you back. You're not going to be able to depend on another government. You're going to have to form your own. So you take that survey you got, the petition that you collected, and then the town name. You have to come up with a town name. Has to be unique. And then a plan for your government structure. You're going to take all of that to your local judge or state legislator, and they are going to probably approve you for your own town. So you have to come up with your plan for how you want government to run. And if the citizens in your new town are very independent, then you don't need very much of a plan if they all agree to be super independent. Like, you don't even have a trash man, do ya? Yeah. Well, what about waste disposal for the city? Well, maybe you just want to burn your garbage in the backwoods, like Mom does.
Maybe.
I
do recycle.
What about city water? We got to set up city water. Well, maybe everyone drills a well and gets fresher water that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
We've always had our own well, every place we've lived.
Which is so much healthier. So let's look at some, I'm trying to read your guys' comments. Some example of people who have done this. There was a town in Michigan. The town still exists. This town was actually formed, I guess, in the 1800s. But in 1942, they decided to create some weird rules for their town. See, when you have your own town, you can create whatever city ordinances you want. This town is called Bayview. Now, if you look at it at a glance, it looks like a homeowners association, but it's actually a municipality. And so that allowed them, I guess, or they thought that allowed them to create some weird rules. So in 1942, they said only Christians can buy houses here and only white people, they said initially. 10 years later, they dropped the race requirement, but for decades, throughout the rest of the 20th century, they required you had to show documentation that you are a Christian. You have to have it written from your pastor how often you go to church in order to buy a house in Bayview, Michigan. Now, that created a lot of controversy. Families started to get annoyed because their kids, as we know, a lot of parents go to church, but then their kids don't go to church. So then the parents are trying to pass the house down to their child as an inheritance. And the town's like, sorry, you can't do that. You don't go to church, kid. And so parents didn't like that. They wanted their child to be able to have their house. And of course, it makes it easier to resell your house if you can sell it to anyone. And so people were like, is this legal? This is America. I think you're violating the First Amendment and what other amendments? So it went to, someone sued in 2018, and apparently they finally dropped that requirement.
So their requirements have to blend with the Constitution then.
Yeah, and I guess that's what the lawsuit argued. And they were trying to say, well, you guys knew the rules before coming in here, but yeah, just because you have a town with its own ordinances doesn't mean the ordinances of that town can violate the Constitution of the United States, which is the supreme law. So that was interesting. Disney actually did this in Florida. Disney created several of its own cities through that same process in order to run operations with virtually no government oversight. That way, the area of Disney World there is so big. Let's make it a whole town. We'll have our own utilities. we don't have to worry about the city telling us what to do with our land. So that's what Disney actually did. Also, a lot of people do it. Little neighborhoods will turn into a town in order to keep from being absorbed by another town. This actually happened in Texas, year 2000. This guy with the last name Clark formed the town of Clark, Texas, on the outskirts of Fort Worth. All he needed was a handful of signatures because not very many people in his neighborhood were registered to vote. And in Texas, that's what matters.
So you have your own police force and things like that, or how's that work?
Well, that's what when you're petitioning to form your own town, you have to let that judge, the county judge, know, okay, this is how we're really going to be a legitimate town. Because if you are separated from the county, you say, no, we're going to claim our independence as a town, then the county's like, okay, so we don't have to patrol that area with our deputies anymore because you have your own police now, right? And so people have to let the judge know that they have a plan for a police force, things like that, which, if you follow my YouTube, you probably know that I don't like a lot of big government, but you do need law enforcement to keep crime away. Or maybe you create an ordinance in your town where everyone must own a gun and wear a gun.
Be like the Old West.
And then everyone is kind of a part of the police force. I don't know. You could get creative when you're creating your own town. So Clark, Texas did that. So Fort Worth, I guess, was trying to absorb them. And if their little community became a part of Fort Worth, their property taxes were going to go way up. So this Clark guy got a few signatures, was able to form a town of 254 people. The people got together again in 2005 and decided they wanted to change the name of the town to Dish, because if they did so, Dish Network would give them a good satellite TV deal. So now it's Dish, Texas, I guess. But you can, it's interesting when you have a little town what you can do with it. The 4 kinds of town governments you can choose from, I guess, are mayor and council. We know that well. There's the city councils and the mayors. Council manager, city manager, commission, commissioner's court, or representative town meeting, which I have to look into more what that is. But interesting stuff. So what do you think of that, Mom?
Yeah. It was some years ago that for the first time, I don't know, like 2012 or something, Dad and I started thinking about other countries. I mean, we loved America, but America was changing so much. It was the first time in our life that we started to contemplate, do we really want to stay here? Which is sad, I still love this country. But subtly and surely, they're encroaching on our freedoms. And it's no good, I've loved that I've had the freedom to have my babies at home and teach them at home every year, and have the freedom for my husband to be an entrepreneur and own his own business, so that I could be a stay-at-home mom, and he could earn more money that way so that I could be that. But the requirements and the hoops he had to jump through to keep his business and keep it up to, keep it legal, and the most stressful thing to him was meeting all the requirements, and every month all the things he'd have to log with the state and the government and IRS, and that was the most stressful thing.
To prove that he was following the government's...
Following all the requirements to a T, all the things you got to keep registering, and data you got to keep uploading.
So when Trump became president, that was one of the big things that he began stripping away, was all these requirements.
It was wonderful.
Regulations, and said, let's just let businesses be businesses.
Yeah, I mean, when he first started his logging business down here, he could do things with kind of a handshake, and little by little, you got to keep, making contracts and signing papers, and if you don't keep up this registration and that one and all this stuff. It got so complicated from when we first moved here, and he could just talk to a landowner and say, I'll log your land for this much per cord, and the landowner says, great, let's do it. Shake your hands, and he starts, you know. It's
Yeah.
just gotten so much more complicated. But
Yeah, well, the way you guys lived required very little government oversight and
no,
organization.
no, we pretty much, I mean, even when everybody else's electricity was out, we didn't know. 'Cause
They didn't have
we
electricity.
didn't have it. We had our outhouse, so never had plumbing problems. And
I grew up with an outhouse, you guys. I had a very unique upbringing. We got electricity when I was like 10.
year 2000, we brought it back because, not for us, we brought it back because my husband wanted buffalo. And I said, I've chased horses, I've chased cows, I've chased pigs, but I'm not going to chase buffalo. So I said, we're going to have to get real electric fences, not solar powered ones.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why we brought it back to our land.
But then he never got buffalo.
Yeah, which is probably
Wow.
a good thing.
We had Scottish Highlander cattle instead, which were really cool on our ranch. So, any advice you would give to people who are gonna leave the city, move to a remote plot of land, and try to begin the work of starting their own town?
Yeah, it takes grit. I mean, it needs to be more like the explorers who came here. You know, they didn't come expecting that if things didn't work out, someone's going to bail them out. This is a risk you're going to take, and you're going to suck it up, whatever the consequences are. And you know, when we lived back there, our house got struck by lightning and burned to the ground, and we didn't go running to see who's going to catch us, where's the net that we're going to fall into. We started over. We started getting wood again to rebuild our cabin, and just lived in my in-laws' guest cabin while we did that, and eventually we ended up moving down here instead and rebuilt down here. But we started from scratch again, you know, and communities come together and friends come together and help you out. Otherwise, as far as my husband and I, it was he and I together, and we're going to make it. We're going to make our way, and that's more how your mode needs to be, rather than always having to have a plan B in case. I mean, it's nice to have plan Bs, but you can't always have that. You can't cover all the what ifs. And to have the grit enough to know that you can do it, you can push through, you can make it, and you become stronger mentally and physically. It's really good. It's really good for the body, soul, and spirit. They call it the simple life. It's simple, but it's not always easy, but it is simple.
I see your comment, low volume. Sorry guys, we're out here in the country, and we have limited resources live streaming out here.
Should we sit closer to the mic?
We don't have Wi-Fi. Here, let's move a little closer. We're one of the few parts of America without 5G and all of this. So we're in the country of Wisconsin. Okay, so it's interesting. I was going to say that a lot in the pandemic, especially after the pandemic hit, we saw a lot of people. Oh, there goes the dog. A lot of people start to move out of the cities and into the suburbs, into more rural areas. My friend who lived an hour outside of Houston, she sold her house for, I think it was a $300,000 house. She sold it for like $600,000. Huge profit, because the property value outside of the city started to go way up, because everyone was like, get me out of this hell, this dictatorship that has become our city. Like, literally, the leadership of so many cities decided to be little dictators in the pandemic, and people were like, get me out of here. So it's really interesting. Like, what if people keep leaving the cities? What's going to happen to these crazy, power-hungry governments that just start to shed all of their citizens?
Well, that's here. I mean, the house market really went up in the last couple years because a lot of people from like Chicago and Minneapolis want some place to go to if in case it gets bad enough in the city, or they're permanently moving up here because they want to get out where there's you can be more self-sustaining in the country. You can have our chickens and our cows and
Yeah.
our gardens and our own wells and things like that.
Oh my gosh, my friend who makes chicken coops for a living, his business is booming right now. So many people are saying, "Screw it. I don't trust any of this. I don't trust what they put in my food. I'm going to have my own chickens."
Well, and you don't in the country. You don't have to have. I mean, we're a community here, so I get my eggs from a certain place and my raw milk from a certain place.
She's living the dream.
I'm living the dream.
She goes to one neighbor for fresh pasture-raised eggs, another neighbor for raw milk, just milked from the cows right there on the farm.
And another neighbor down the road on the other side raises his own grass-fed beef, so I can go and just buy 5 pounds when I need it.
I might have to move back here myself.
And I get my milk for less than you get your pasteurized milk.
Really?
So yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
but yeah, out here we survive better than in the city because we have each other, and one can have bigger garden. I mean, some farmers have their grain fields, so they're raising their corn and wheat and things like that, and so we can each specialize in something and then share.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people are saying now is a good time to get to know your local farmer, even if you live in a city. You know, for me, I live in Houston, so I had to search for farms on the perimeter of Houston, and there's plenty of them, and you can find where to get the local meat, eggs, milk, and your local veggies. I mean, go to a farmer's market, find when the next farmer's market is, and then ask those people about their farms and get their contact info if things go bad. You know, weird things are happening right now with the supply chain. At least you're in direct contact with a farmer, and you can get some sustenance if you need it.
Well, even you know how they say local honey, local products have ingredients that you need health-wise that help your health to be better. So buying your honey not pasteurized and then local honey helps with your allergies and your maple syrup. People all around here do their own maple syrup tapping, so I can just run down the road and get my maple syrup too. Another thing about living in the country is my sister-in-law showed me a book of old herbal remedies, and I started paging through it, and I told her, it's like all of these are on my bike route. I see all these weeds of natural healing remedies that I could just go out in the forest and pick, and they work. They actually work.
It's crazy. Literally, these plants that you think are just a weed growing out on the side of the road it has healing properties like none other. And I was just riding with my Aunt Joanna, riding the car the other day up here, and she pointed out like these big plants on the side of the highway with like a golden flower at the top of them. And she's like, "Oh, the flower of that plant is really good for your ears. The leaves of the plant are incredible for your lungs." She was like, "It really helped my lungs. You like make a tea out of the leaves or something." And so I looked up the flower of the plant, and sure enough, really good for like eardrops. If you're having ear issues, ear aches. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And it's so many remedies that like a lot of the Native Americans here knew about, and then with the emergence of traditional medicine, all this stuff was just forgotten, thrown by the wayside.
Yeah, medicine that doesn't have bad side effects. You can get maybe quicker fixes, but then you end up with side effects that now you got to take care of and heal too. But remember,
Yeah.
Boone, my son Boone, just got bit by a wasp, and he usually swells up horribly. But Joanna was here, my sister-in-law, and she quick picked from some, I don't know if it was comfrey or mullein leaf that she saw. She said, chew it up and make a paste. And so he did that and put it on, and it healed up pretty quickly. He didn't,
Wow.
in my estimation, he didn't swell up near like he used to.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Yeah. Someone just said it's funny how we're all learning something old. Yeah, it's coming full circle. We're having to reabsorb the knowledge that was not passed down from our ancestors because I think the mainstream media freaking brainwashed everybody because of their partnership with Big Pharma throughout the
Yeah.
20th century.
well,
I
someone
really think that's what went down.
right now, Ivory and I are earthing. We have bare feet on the bare ground, and that's one of, you know, old ancient remedies that the Native Americans knew well, the earthing and grounding, connecting to Mother Earth, and it has a strong antioxidant effect on the body and on your immune system. And one man said that one of the worst inventions was the rubber sole because our feet no longer connected to Earth and the Earth's energy.
Wow.
So just simple things like that. When my kids get sick, I say, go outside, put your feet on the earth, and just sit out there. Instead of resting on the couch, go out and get some earthing in.
Wow. Incredible. Love that. Well, you know a lot about remedies, Mom. Maybe you can help President Biden. He's sick in multiple ways right now. Not only
that might be beyond me, but
he got the new flu. He just announced he was sick with that, but he also nonchalantly.
oh,
Okay. So freaking gross. I
mosquitoes.
hate. Bill Gates has a new kind of mosquito he's coming out with. I wonder if they've migrated to Wisconsin yet. All right, so Biden nonchalantly said he has cancer. You know, the pollution, there's global warming happening, and that's why there were oil slicks on my windshield, and that's why me and all my friends have cancer here in Delaware. And we're like, hold up. You just said you have cancer. The most laid back cancer announcement of all time. Do you guys think he really has cancer? What's your take, Mom?
I don't know. He nonchalantly says a lot of things, so I don't know.
It's got to be brain cancer, doesn't it? It's got to be brain cancer. Anyway, it was exactly a year ago that he did a CNN town hall, and he was like, guys, just get the needle. If you get the needle, you're not gonna have to worry. You're not gonna get the illness. You're not gonna get the new flu. And he just said that, and guess what? Biden himself has gotten 4 needles. He's gotten the needle 4 times, and he just got the illness anyway. So whatever he was telling people last year didn't end up to be true for him. Do you think he was lied to, or was he helping to lie to us? A lot of people are getting jaded about this needle. My friends who were huge needle proponents are like, all right, what's going on here?
Well, it's a whole new take on health. Since when did health stem from vaccinations? And that's our source for going forth with good, strong, healthy bodies. I mean, I'm not very trusting when it comes to the government, and even doctors have their place, but they are about curing symptoms, it seems like, not getting to the root cause of things so much. And so I don't trust what all is in this thing that they're going to shoot into my bloodstream. And ever since, first I didn't give my kids the needle when they were little, simply because I hated to see them get poked. I hated to see them cry, so I wouldn't do it. And now
she just told me this recently. I was like, so Mom, why am I completely pure blood, as they say? Completely pure blood. Never had a needle in my life. Why is that, Mom?
Because I'm such a mother hen.
She didn't want to see me cry as a kid.
I wouldn't put him in the church nursery or anything. I didn't. I wanted to homeschool him because I remember what it was like to be left at kindergarten, and I hated to do that
is
to
so
them.
funny.
So a lot of what I did was just because I'm such a mother hen and protective. But looking back, I'm so glad that I did what I did, and my kids are so healthy and resilient, and I think in part because we made their immune systems fight things off rather than always seeking something outside of them to fight it off. I never gave one of them antibiotics. I've never had antibiotics myself. You build a stronger immune system if you can weather it. I mean, there's a place for those things, but
Yeah, antibiotics are given out left and right now.
Yeah.
I had to have oral surgery a couple of years ago, and they were, yeah, because I had to have a tooth pulled at one point, and then they put a new one in, and they're like, here's some antibiotics, just in case, it inflames or something. Like, they give you antibiotics unnecessarily when nothing's going on in your mouth. I mean, nothing is inflamed. So that actually destroys your gut health when you keep getting antibiotics like that. And
they say it takes 2 years for your body to have all the good gut flora built back up again
Wow.
after you do antibiotics.
oh my word, and it's just so messed up because when my skin was breaking out in my early 20s, the dermatologist gave me antibiotics to fix my skin, and she just left me on antibiotics, and I was so ignorant. I was like, okay, I'm just doing what the dermatologist says, and I was taking antibiotics for months on end. I was like, so am I supposed to take this forever or what? And someone was like, stop, do not take antibiotics for that long. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then my skin got way worse, and that was because my gut health was destroyed. If you have no gut health, it's going to affect your skin. And so here the dermatologist gave me the recipe to have worse skin instead of better skin. And that's one of the first signals to me that, oh, these doctors who spent years in medical school are actually insanely ignorant and can't be trusted. And so...
Well, they're not trained in overall health. Like I said, more so in treating symptoms and things and treating it with pharmaceuticals. And if you're going to live more self-sufficient, you're going to form your own town and things, you need to start seeking ways that you can be more independent and how can we handle things on our own. There are so many things you can do on your own, just like even having our own babies. I mean, we've done most with 12 children, and my husband and I, we've probably went to the doctor in our 34 years, 36 years now, maybe 5 times, 6
Really?
times. Broken bones mainly. We did initially for Lyme's disease, and then when they wanted to put me on intravenous antibiotics, I said I said thank you, and I went home and decided to find my own remedies for that.
Wow.
There's so many ways if you start digging and finding out. And as far as having babies at home, people have asked, "What was your husband? Was your husband a doctor?" And I said, "No, he was a logger." But I had just an emergency handbook for childbirth, emergency childbirth handbook, and kind of read through it. And you learn things from talking to other people. I would talk to midwives and ask them my questions, and through the years glean things. And as my husband used to say, it's not a surgery. It's something that happens in nature all the time. So why do we treat childbirth like it's something unnatural and that we need to be afraid of? The main thing is the woman needs to, and people in general, take care of your health by being active. Don't be so sedate. And if you have an office job, you're going to have to be more intentional about taking care of your health and being active.
Work out a lot during your pregnancy?
For myself, work out between pregnancies, and then during the pregnancy, I would do more, for the first 5 months, maybe continue with my regular program, and then I would slow down to just walking a mile, 2 miles, 6 miles, 5 miles, and down to at the end 1 mile because I was so huge. I had most all my babies from Ivory up. The last 11 were 9 to over 11 pounds. So by the end I can't walk that far. But I keep doing that. The one pregnancy I didn't because I most of my pregnancies were late or winter ones. It was the one that was noticeably harder because I hadn't done just simply walking, is such a good
Wow.
exercise. So from then on, I was really diligent to keep active during the pregnancies all the way throughout, and just certain our whole lifestyle seems to be anti-health with all our screens and devices and so much things that naturally happen by pushing a button. We don't have to be as active anymore, and we have to be more intentional to make sure that we keep moving and keep our health up.
Yeah, and eat nutrient dense foods.
Yeah.
Our diets are so full of junk calories.
Yeah.
So that as well, I think.
And keep a peaceful, happy heart. In my life coaching, the one thing that I probably face more than any other with people is anxiety. Everybody has anxiety. And when you study health and natural medicines and all that, you come to find out that 85% of health is your emotional state. 15% is your activity and food, your diet. So your emotional state affects your health more than anything. Find a way to restore peace and equanimity to your lifestyle so that you're not having chronic stress all the time.
Wow, that's what I'm working on. I get a lot of anxiety. So
Yeah.
yeah, it leads. I'm reading your comments. It leads to a lot of illnesses. Yeah. All right. Well, we were gonna have these shorter truth bombs. We usually go an hour, but um, we have a bridal shower for two of my sisters here. That's why I'm out here. My other sister got married last week. Everyone is getting married.
3 weeks another wedding, and three
My
weeks another
brother,
wedding.
my brother gets married next month. What's going on? Um, love is in the air. Okay, so mom, what's your advice on a happy marriage? My parents had the happiest marriage I've ever seen. So, what's your advice for keeping the love alive, mom? As a final thought here.
I think never lose sight of each other's heart. You go through tough times and you go through changes and that you just can't predict. But when you see each other's struggles and go, you know, I face my challenges. A lot of it's internal challenges. Sometimes it's anxiety. I had some fears I need to face. And my husband went into depression, kind of changed who he was during that time, but we never lost sight of each other's heart. And we stuck by each other because of that, because we knew each other was trying. Love each other through those things, let commitment hold you there with each other. And then, as one older lady told me when I asked her that same question, she said, be kind. Be kind to each other. Don't jump all over each other, and have tolerance and kindness. My husband used to often say, where's the love? Because it's like he'd see people nitpick at each other, and boy, that bothers me when you do that and stuff. And he'd say, where's the love? When I would do certain things, they could have annoyed him, but he decided to look at him as being cute. Cute, because he loved me.
Oh,
So be kind.
love that. Some guy just said communication and the wife is always right. He's been married for like 12 years.
Yeah. And my husband kind of came to that conclusion a little bit, and they said, bring home enough money.
Bring home enough money
Yeah.
to make the wife happy. And one of my girlfriends who's married, because I'm not married, so I'm just listening to other people's advice for whenever I am married. But she said that she kind of uses the opposite of like almost like the husband's always right, because she tends to be an alpha female, but she wants an alpha husband, and so two alphas together, as a wife, you have to choose to let him lead because sometimes you just want to, duke it out with your husband forever. And then you realize that it's a much more wonderful life if you just let him have this and lead.
Yeah.
So I'm just listening to it all, and then my cousin Sarah said something that stuck with me about just like don't sweat the small stuff, because she lost her husband. He died. I forget how long ago.
Year ago, about 11
And when you realize, you encounter the point where you're losing him and he dies, you realize that all that little stuff that you would bicker about really was not a big deal when you look at life and death. So just don't sweat the small stuff while you have them with you.
And always be grateful. Always look for the good and be grateful. It's so easy to focus on the problems, and you feel like if I don't mention the problems, they're not going to ever change if I just keep being happy. But when we focus on what's good and just praise them and appreciate them, it makes them want to rise up to that bar that you hold them to, and to be even more that way. It really is true.
Ooh, love that. Well, it has been a wonderful chat with you guys. I'm glad that you could hang out with my mom again while we're here in Wisconsin, where I grew up. It's a wonderful
Paradise.
place.
It's a little piece of paradise.
All right, you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see ya on Monday.